So welcome, Lamia, to our third edition of Women in Literature Festival. And I'd like to begin with introducing Lamia. Lamia Sami is a final year PhD student at the University of, and Lamia, please, if you can pronounce this.
It's Strathclyde.
All right, University of Strathclyde, where she is researching South Asian fiction through the lens of post-humanism, with a focus on exploring the multiple themes of post-humanism. Her work aims to provide valuable insight into the ways in which contemporary South Asian fiction engages with the challenges posed by the Anthropocene. In addition to her PhD studies, she's working as a graduate tutor at the University of Strathclyde. She is also an active participant in a range of platforms where she engages in discussions and ideation around post-human realities. With a passion for fiction and post-humanism, she aims to expand her knowledge and understanding of the complexities and challenges of the Anthropocene. Through her experience in research and teaching, Lamia's goal is to inspire others to critically engage with the challenges and opportunities of the post-human era. So Lamia, welcome. And we are absolutely thrilled for this keynote titled Reimagining Anthropocene. Over to you, Lamia.
Thank you very much, Sabine. I would first like to share the PDF that I have made very quickly, and I hope I'm able to upload it properly. Just let me know if you can see that. Sabine, is it visible?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
All right. So, hello, everyone. And as Sabine has mentioned, my name is Lamiya, and I am technically a final year, not even a student. I'm in the writing process of my PhD, and I'm a researcher looking into Anglophone fiction through the lens of posthumanism. So I'm so sorry, everyone. Again, my name is Lamiya, and I'm a researcher. So I'll just start from where I left. So my research journey is more than just an academic endeavor for me. It inspires me to not just be a passive researcher, but also an activist in my own right, trying to bring awareness on what it means to be human in the present time and the issues of our time involving our planet and its many, many human and non-human inhabitants. How do I switch to the next slide? Sabine, I don't know how to switch to the next slide.
Just enter.
All right. Okay. So now my topic of presentation is Anthropocene, Reimagining Anthropocene, a post-human exploration of climate resilience, urbanism, and non-human and South Asian fiction. The topic of presentation, as you know, there are many wordy words, very academic and very difficult, but let me shed some light on these two terminologies, the post-humanism and anthropocentrism, or the Anthropocene. Oh, it's not going as a being, I'm just trying.
No, just click on the, just enter.
I did. Yeah, now it works, sorry. So what is Anthropocene? The Anthropocene is a period of time in which humans have become a dominant force in shaping the Earth environment, from the burning of fossil fuels to the alteration of the landscape. It is marked as the significant changes in the Earth's carbon cycle, as well as the extinction of species and the destruction of the ecosystems and the pollution of the oceans and the atmosphere. The Anthropocene is a result of industrial revolution and the massive increase in human population that followed it. It is estimated that the current rate of human-driven species extinction is 100 to 1,000 times higher than the natural rate. So the concept of Anthropocene is significant because it highlights the impact of humans that have on the Earth's ecosystem and the need for us to take actions and the responsibilities for our action. It also underscores the importance of sustainable practices and the need to work together as a global community to sort of address challenges of climate change and environmental degradation. So what is the connection of post-humanism with the concept or with the notion of Anthropocene, and what does it take to reimagine the Anthropocene? So post-humanism is my area of research where it is the body of work that I'm more inclined towards. And it is an umbrella term and has many branches. But what specifically I've been connecting to in this presentation, and of course with my research as well, is critical post-humanism. Critical post-humanism is a theoretical framework that challenges the traditional human-centered view of the world and explores the possibilities of a more inclusive and equitable future for all beings, both human and the non-human. It recognizes the interconnectedness of humans, animals, and plants in the environment and emphasizes the need to move beyond the anthropocentrism and embrace a more holistic perspective that considers the interests of all entities, including the non-human. In connection to the non-human and environment, critical post-humanism highlights the way in which human activities and attitudes have led to environmental degradation, loss of biodiversity, and the exploitation of non-human beings. And it calls a shift for a more sustainable and ethical practice to prioritize well-being of all beings and the planet as a whole. This brings us to the point of the intersection of my research project, which is South Asian fiction. And I will show you some, sorry, being very cautious here.
Click on the screen, yeah.
Yeah. So as you can see, I've taken pictures of a lot of novels here, some of them being my primary text that I'm working with, and some of them being the secondary sources of my examination and investigation into South Asian fiction. South Asian Anglophone fiction has gained a strong presence in the contemporary literature, producing one of the most original and also marketable fiction being written today. It portrays a colorful, kaleidoscopic view presented by the insight of the writers and their imagination, reflecting realities and fantasies of our world today. The current site of Anglophone fiction locate and reflect new concerns and development within the region that is related to globalization, South Asian diaspora culture, presentation of political tensions in South Asia after 9/11, changing terrain of the subaltern narrative and linguistic development, and so on and so forth. And Anglophone novels and narrative, as you can see, a quote from Clark 2015, it says that it explores topical concerns of the 21st century and it also reflects on the anxieties and hope and development of our environment, wherein the novel, South Asian in this case, challenges the readers with the Anthropocene disorder. So Anglophone, it becomes a perfect site, Anglophone fiction, South Asian Anglophone fiction becomes a perfect site for post-human concerns of the Anthropocene. I've mentioned these novels to you here. My novels that I'm personally working with are Lady of Alice Patti by Muhammad Hanif, The Ministry of Utmost Happiness by Arundhati Roy, and Hungry Tide by Amativ Ghosh, all written after post 2004. Indrasena's Animal People and Exit West are also my secondary sources, and all these fiction, and including more fiction that is coming out, and I have gotten a chance to listen to lots of writers and publishers prior to my keynote, and I could see that there are lots and lots of novels and stories that are coming out from South Asia that deeply deal with the concept and the crisis of the Anthropocene. So due to limitation of time, I will just be discussing only two novels with you. One is Our Lady of Alice Patti, and the other is Amativ Ghosh, Hungry Tide. So Our Lady of Alice Patti, Anthropocene through post-human lens in Our Lady of Alice Patti. So Lady of Alice Patti was written in 2012 by a famous Pakistani writer, Muhammad Hanif, and it is a story of a lower class, untouchable Christian woman known as Alice Patti, and who is an outspoken ex-convict working as a junior nurse at a hospital, Sacred Heart Hospital in Karachi, Pakistan. She falls in love with a guy, Teddy Budd, and who is also an off-the-book police informer, and an alternative events followed by the stories of miracle performed by Alice. She dies an untimely death through acid attack. Following this, her father makes a claim for her canonization, which is ultimately rejected by the church. The novel is based in the megacity of Karachi, and the narrative draws significant attention to the urban spaces and its non-human others. The novel is a testimony of the city in crisis, which isn't just the crisis of the human, but also the crisis of the non-human animal, and the environment. So, examining the novel through the lens of critical posthumanism helps reader to expose the indelible effects of the Anthropocene ecology and also helps understand the world from a decentered human point of view. The narrative reveals many instances and interactions between the human and the non-human in the novel that I propose through these narrative signposting about the non-human other. It opens up the crisis of the Anthropocene to the readers and the expound post-human concern. So I have some examples here on the slide from the novel, some text as iterations of post-human Anthropocene. And these images here will help you visualize the textual implication of these narrative or the signpostings. I'll read them one by them. The highlights honks at a donkey cart with spinach piled up high and the driver sleeves stretched out on the top. The donkey used the early mornings. Speedy traffic swerves and make way for the highlights. In another instance, she looks over a cage full of chicken trying to climb over each other as one of them is caught and its throat gets slit. The cackle of the caged chicken and the soundtrack of the dead follows her for some distance. And you can also see the condition of the caged chicken on the right-hand side of the slide, and of course, piled up donkey cart on the right too. In another instance, Hanif writes, they look up simultaneously towards the top of the pole where a number of kites perched on the electric wires are waking up from their slumber and looking down at them suspiciously. The kite on the wire flap their wings and lift off. One of them shrieks as if to tell them to take their silly games somewhere else. And also, finding the street deserted, group of kites and crew descend from their perches and chase wild dog who lift their faces to the sky and bark joyously. So in these instances, the novel introduces diverse number of animals within the plot. These instances remind and emphasize the embeddedness of the non-human animals in populated urban spaces. As you can also see, kites, the avian fauna flying, the predatory birds flying in a city in the city of Karachi. Thus, these things help bring the reader's focus to animal welfare, ethics, and toward the fundamental reconceptualization of human-animal relationship. Every single non-human in the narrative, the caged bird, the donkey cart, the stray dogs, and the predatory avifauna, in this case, which you can see in the image, and the lack of nature, everything points to a sense of cataclysm, of an unseen disturbance. It highlights the crisis of habitat loss, the annihilation of nature, and the invasion of certain species, and so on. In this lies a post-human reading of the narrative underscores the crisis of the Anthropocene, helps shape our human-centered perspective, and to recognize the agencies of the non-human and the interdependence of human and the non-human in the environment. From the narrative signpost in South Asian fiction, and in this case, Hanif helps readers identify the plight of animals. The category of animals is a decisive other, which is traditionally excluded from the human sphere as well as the sphere of law and ethics. It is here that in the crisis of Anthropocene and posthumanism posthumanism proposes biocentric ethics to include non-human other and dismantle violence. The category of non-human animal has frequently been used and abused to justify violence and subjugation. And as Carrie Wolf argues that violence against human others has often operated by means of double movement that animalizes them for the purpose of domination, subjugation, and even genocide, because we take for granted the prior assumption that violence against the animal is ethically permissible. It is this ethical permissibility of violence against non-human animal that Hanif brings to the forefront in the random instances of the novel and narrativized post-human concerns of the Anthropocene. I'll move to the next slide now, which is the other novel that I'd like to discuss. It is The Hungry Tide by Amitav Ghosh. The novel was written in 2004. It has become sort of a canonical text for emphasizing the environmental ecological concerns within literary studies. The novel is set in the Sundarban cluster of island at the Bay of Bengal, between India and Bangladesh. And the story vividly articulates the setting of the Sundarban mangroves as the protein tide country home to not just the indigenous people, but also multiple non-human others, including endangered tigers, you can see the picture there, Iratue dolphin or scillas and other fish species, including fish and crabs, and so on and so forth. Similar to Alice Putty, the other novel that I discussed, this Hungry Tide also deals with environmental concerns. So the focus on the volatile land and its distinct ecosystem. The novel highlights issues such as environmental degradation, ecological vulnerability, and endangered species, and declining fish biodiversity and other ecological concerns affecting human and non-human lives. Hungry Tide draws meticulous attention to the island's unique environment and ecology through non-human animals and natural topography and other elements to create a distinct non-human narrative and create a story. By combining the post-human direction and the eco-critical route, the novel strongly recognizes other forms of subjectivities and ecological interconnectedness of biologically diverse subjects within nature. Based on this idea, the narrative expands the notion of the world to include entire ecosphere and open up readers for new critical explorations, ecological exploration, and engagements in knowledge. How does the novel do that? So similar to Alice Putty instances and iterations in Alice Putty, Kosh creates a distinct narrative, unique and unlike any other. From the very start, Kosh directs the narrative into a non-human world, making the readers more aware that they are in a world where human autonomy disbands. In this world, the non-human fashions everything. And the non-human is the water, the ebb, the mangrove, the river, the aquatic, and the terrestrial animals. Thus, the narrative suggests a strong sense of domineering non-human world where the human position becomes problematic and human loses autonomy as the non-human takes over. Instances like the currents are so powerful as to reshape the islands almost daily. And when tide creates new land overnight, mangroves began to gestate. And no moment can human beings have any doubt of the terrain's hostility to their presence. Every year, dozens of people perish in the embrace of dense foliage, killed by tigers, snakes, and crocodiles. So, how and where does the human loses an autonomy in the plot? Based on these instances, very few of many instances, it is the tide. Firstly, it is the tide that dominates everything, and Ghosh affirms that the rising tides swallow up jungle as well as rivers and their opening. So the novel asserts that Sundarban is no ordinary place. It's different from the human cities and human exercise, autonomy, and free movement. In other words, it's the tide in this case that dictates the movement on human sociality, it designs human sociality, and even their fate. Similar to the tide, the mangroves also play a significant role in the deciding the pivotal force as a pivotal force of the island. Unlike the tides with a regular flow, the mangroves are deeply ingrained into the terrain of the island. However, they are integrally connected with the movement of the tide. When tide creates new land, the tide creates new land overnight, mangroves begin to gestate, meaning that the tide is entangled with the mangroves in creating the island's unique ecology. The non-human animals also have a ubiquitous presence in the novel and kind of bring a sense of awareness and mindfulness to the readers throughout the novel. The locals do not even utter the word tiger. For instance, Kanai Leaf Pia, two characters, they from the novel and their final words are beware of the man-eater, which actually indicates to the tiger. So Ghosh employs a sense of awareness and a sense of cognizance of the place and alertness that is necessary to survive in the Sundarban Islands. So this brings us to the conclusion of this. So South Asian fiction vehemently narrativized the concerns of the Anthropocene and help us reimagine the world through multiple ways. Contemporary fiction from South Asia not only explored regional stories, but it also addresses the wider issues of Anthropocene that have a global impact. This allows us for a more critical examination of posthumanism, which the opportunity to rethink the world in a way that is not centered on humans or where humans are not the masters, but a world where they are participants, similar, just like the non-human other. It also helps explore the concept of bioegalitarianism and human and post-human ethics. The novel recognizes non-human world which helps us create an ontological shift of perspective. The non-human narrative establishes non-human territory and destabilizes human primacy to bring the ontological shift. This human, though where humans are no longer in the position of mastery. As for human is as the human is decentralized, the boundaries delineating human and the non-human dissolve. In another word, there is no more position of primacy and hegemony. Thus, it helps us treat differences in new way and reposition the role of human in a more than human world. Furthermore, a standpoint from a standpoint from the non-human position also gives a richer vision or the richer understanding of the non-human other. In this way, it proposes what's called trans-species egalitarianism, as I mentioned earlier, bio-egalitarianism. And it also helps analyze power relations in social forms and exclusion and domination perpetuated by biopriacy, as Shiva says, and commodification of life, as Pradoti says, and systematic dispossession, as Sasan says. Such critique also encourages awareness toward non-human animals and environment and emphasizes interconnectedness, mutualities, new connections, and mergers between species, bodies, and actions, wherein these connections are not just transcendence, but actual embodiment. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Lamiya, for this enlightening. This has been a learning experience for me. So thank you so much for your presentation.
You're welcome.
So any last words, Lamiya?
Last words. This is a process of blood, sweat, and tear for the past 3 years that I've been working. Not exactly past 4 years. So I would encourage people for this keynote to look into things by not from their point of view. It is time to change our gaze. It is time to look at the world from the other's gaze. And other has so many different connotations. It not necessarily has to be the human, it could be the non-human. It could also very well be the other marginalized being. It could also be the women of society. It could also be the racially marginalized being from the society. And as we expand our gazes to the other side, it also includes non-humans and then, of course, the environment. And it also brings our attention to the multiple crises that we are facing in the times of Anthropocene. I hope that I try to make it as easy as I can, because I know there are a lot of academic words in it, which even I confuse myself sometimes, constantly trying to navigate through my own research. But the idea is about looking into the world from the other's gaze and looking into issues and not thinking ourselves as the masters of the world, but also actually destabilizing the notion of mastery and feeling one with everything else.
Thank you so much, Lamiya.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Up next, we have an amazing workshop facilitated by Kirti Jayakumar. So stay tuned. We will be right back.